All right, so let's talk about another type of nav controller, and that is the tab bar controller. So just search tab bar controller, and we drag and drop it into our scene. And just like the navigation controller, it's a little bit big. Whenever I release, it'll drop in. Let's just kind of clean up our interface. I'm going to move my navigation controller around just to get it out of the way. And here's the tab bar controller. And as you can imagine, it's pretty basic. There's a series of items at the bottom, and this is probably the second most common nav controller, by the way. So the default navigation controller, where we have these sort of nested screens with back and forward and home and so on. And then the tab bar controller, where you have multiple tabs. Most apps actually use both of them together. If you think about, for instance, the Apple Music app, right, we have music selections down here, and then as we pick an album, it might go into a nested view, deeper and deeper into a hierarchy. That's not particularly uncommon. So the structure of the tab bar controller is we have the tab bar controller right here, just like how we have the navigator controller right here. I'm just going to move that entry point over here. And then we have our two options. And by default, it hops to one of these options. If I select down here and I click on the attribute editor, I can see a bunch of different properties here. And if I add more items and add them with different segues, we can get more items. So let's just add another view controller, drag and drop it in. And if I click on this, and if I right click and drag, just like with the navigation controller, and say relationship segue view controllers, then it will add that as another item down here. So it adds it as an item. So now I have 3 items that I can cycle through. I can actually go in and edit these icons specifically on each one. So if I select that specific icon over here and I give it a value, so let's call it here title, we can see that there's a value that appears there as a kind of notification. You can also leave that blank. You can change the name of it right here in the bar item. I can say music. I can get an image, different, basically like different icons I could drag in. Let's go down here and select this one, and let's call this one pics. And we'll call this one text or something like that. And you can see that it's adapting in this primary view controller. So the tab bar controller works just like the navigation controller. A little bit more complicated, but again, it provides you with different functionality. And remember, we can nest these within each other. So what I'd like you to do is explore creating a tab bar controller and nesting a navigation controller within that so that you can create a series of navigation hierarchies.